Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Northeast River Forecast Center Water Resources briefing this morning, September 21st. Welcome to autumn, and we do these briefings every month. We try to do them the third Friday of every month at 11 a.m. It's a general briefing of our service area, and we get specific when things are warranted. As we look at the GOES image, on the top image from the last few days, not a cloud to be found. We still don't have any real color wave coming through the northeast from foliage yet, but not a cloud around, extremely dry. The image down below, Modus Terra, water vapor imagery. A lot of storminess and rain in the southeastern part of the U.S. and a cold front slicing through New England. But here we are in most of New England in a dry regime. Service area highlights for the last 30 days from the Northeast Regional Climate Center maps. Precipitation has generally been below normal through most of southern New England, coastal and interior New York. 25 to 50% of normal, which is about an inch or less for the month. Some wetter areas are upper Connecticut Valley and central Maine. Temperatures were above normal for most of the area and up to 6 to 8 inches above normal in Maine. The last 90-day precipitation departure from normals on the left graphic show that anything in gold, orange, or red is below normal. Much of the area below normal from 2 to 6 inches in the last 90 days. 180-day map on the right, precipitation departures somewhat similar in the 2 to 8 inch range, mostly in the coastal plain and especially Connecticut, southeast New York, and Long Island. U.S. Drought Monitor. The map on the left is the latest drought monitor for September, and we can see that as compared to August, more area is in a abnormally dry or even moderate drought area. The moderate drought area, coastal Maine, we feel like it should be extended into portions of eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and you can see here it's into southern Connecticut and Long Island. Even around the southern Connecticut area, there was some SL indicated, short-term, typically less than 6-month agriculture drought, and a longer-term hydrologic drought has happened. If we look at the CPC seasonal drought outlook till the end of the year, we see that drought persists, but I have limited coastal areas. That's the only thing they have outlined here, coastal area of Maine and southwestern New England to Long Island, New York, for the drought persisting and maybe even intensifying. USGS real-time stream flow conditions across the Northeast. Basically below normal, southern New England into southeast New York, and many of the below normals are less than 10% of the percentile, and even some record lows for this time of year. As you see the map on the lower right, many areas below normal stream flow. An interesting thing we did look at was the USGS stream flow duration graphic, 7-day average flows. The graphic on the left is the 5-year period during the big 60s drought. And I want you to look at the mean 7-day flows there, about 8 or 9 cubic feet per second. Whereas if we look at this year plus the last 5 years recently, we see that we're pretty dry now, and the low flows 7-day average around 5, 6, and even the instantaneous down around 1 CFS. And we're noting that Norwood and the Neponset River, they've had a drastic watershed change since the 60s. There's a lot more pavement in that watershed, and pavement will get things rolling real quickly during some big flows, big storms. And also, pavement does not allow recharge into the basin as well as natural ground. So if you have a lot of area that's paved, the recharge is not going to be there, and when you hit these low flow instances, you're just not going to have the recharge to sustain the low flows of what we're seeing here. Low flows lower than the massive drought of the 60s. The current groundwater conditions, mainly in the normal range with a few below normal for this time of year. We look at a couple graphs here, one from Norfolk, Massachusetts, in a sand and gravel aquifer. We see the groundwater is below normal. And yet another one in Plymouth, Mass, on a sand and gravel aquifer were normal. Many times these wells will stay in the normal range this time of year, even though it's real dry, because of surrounding conditions of lakes and ponds, which can artificially keep the groundwater level higher. And the lack of consumptive use in those areas will keep it higher. Soil moisture conditions from the NLDAS NASA experiment show the top graphic is the 1 meter depth, bottom is the total water column. We can see the anomaly of dry across much of southern New England into interior New York, where that wet area is showing up a little wetter than normal in central Maine. Water supply and lake levels. New York system's water supply is 78.6% of capacity, which is 5% above normal, even though Cannonsville has been drawn down to 59% of normal. So they're still in pretty good shape there. The Quabbin Reservoir levels are normal. Situate, we may be here below normal on the level. And Lake Champlain, if you follow the orange line here, we're right about at normal, where it should be for this time of September. If we're looking ahead, we see warm and dry conditions continue. The QPF for the next 48 hours, there is nothing really to mention. And the 7-day QPF from Weather Prediction Center is indicating much of the precipitation in the Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and the Gulf is going to stay there and not really affect us too much. So we're looking at a 2-week period of continued above normal temperatures with normal to below normal precipitation and strong El Nino and late summer, early autumn dryness. We'll see how in a few graphics how the El Nino plays into it. And then again, our deterministic forecast, you can see nothing here going to flooding the next 3 days, although the squeeze play between the high to the north of us and the low to the south, bringing onshore winds in, you see a lot of coastal gauges near flood stage, so the tides are up. In the Met Model Ensemble forecast system, again, we have everything less than a 30% chance of reaching action level for the next 5 to 7 days. If we look at the outlook, 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day, the 6 to 10 day outlook are the two graphics on the left surrounded by the black outline, above normal temperatures and normal to below normal precipitation, and it continues through the 8 to 14 day. A new experimental graphic from CPC is the 3 to 4 week outlook, and this here you can see you're either above normal in A or below normal in B, with solid lines giving the likely probability of greater than 50% of this likelihood. So here we stay in the 3 to 4 week outlook. Below normal precipitation is a key for the Northeast. The CPC October and October, November, December seasonal outlooks here. Across the top, we have the October outlook in red, above normal temps, below normal precip, and then the October, November, December outlook, above normal temperatures, and normal to below normal precipitation. Pretty similar theme through the period. We look at the latest El Nino forecasts, and most of the models are indicating that the El Nino 3.4 will be above the 1.5 degrees C, indicating a strong El Nino during the late 2015 into early 2016. So on the left we have the dynamical and statistical models, both showing this the average above 1.5 degrees C. The right graphic is the CFS, the climate model, showing extended period above 1.5 C. And just a reference, the El Nino 3.4 area is this area here that I'm circling with the mouse. And as a general rule, if the warmer portion of the El Nino is out by the date line in Nino 4, we have cooler than normal winters, and if the warmer section of the El Nino is in 2 or 3.4 to 2, we have a little bit warmer winters. So that still has to be played out to see what happens there. But the CPC has also put together an El Nino seasonal precipitation anomaly, and here we are through the 3-month periods from September, October, November, right into December, January, February, and you see that in the fall here in these two graphics up top, we really have a dry signal for the Northeast, and it becomes wetter as we get deeper into the winter. Looking at the surface maps, and I'm pulling out the 3 sets of maps here that show the chances of precipitation in the next 2 weeks from the GFS model. So the surface map on Monday, September 28th, we see that that Mid-Atlantic system weakens and might try to throw a little bit of rain into the Northeast, but not too much of a probability of that. The 500 millibar, 20,000 foot level, We can see the main jet stream is way north into Canada. We have a zonal flow through the country. There's no real impetus to bring heavy moisture up the coast. Looking further out to October 1, we have pretty much a full latitude cold front moving through the area. So it'll be the next chance of seeing some showers and maybe some steady rain for a period of time. And the 500 millibar shows that there's some upper-level support, jet energy from central northern New England further north. Pretty potent cold front. Looking further out, way out to October 10th, we see another system digging into southeastern New England, bringing precipitation through the area in the 500 millibars. So it shows a closed low as the seasons kind of change here. But that's way out, and we know there can be many fluctuations till then. If we look at CPC's 2015 Atlantic hurricane season forecast, pretty much on schedule. We're now beyond the peak of the number of hurricanes that are normally forming in the Western Atlantic. There's another slight peak here in middle late October, but we've gone through the peak and really not much activity. In the lower left graphic, we can see Tropical Storm Ida's milling around. And then the expected conditions during the peak months from August to October have panned out with a lot of shear in the main zone of formation, so nothing really has been substantial or strong. Water temperatures are now cooling, low 60s east of New England, still 70 and higher south of New England. And as we look at the hurricane season here, these graphics show that all the greens and oranges and yellows are tropical systems, tropical storms, tropical depression, and the only hurricane days are in the red here. Very little activity as suggested earlier in the season. And we have an upper right graphic here of Ida. And the next graphic will give us a sense of the precipitable water available. The orange, the dark orange, is the very moist column of water. The dark colors here in the blues are very dry. You can see high pressure is sinking south, dominating and keeping all that moisture that we need to the south of us at this time. So with that, are there any questions? And that's about it for the presentation at this time. Thank you.